All right, well, hey, welcome to the follow-up. This is Will and Jeff talking about the sermon this past Sunday. Man, it was a good Sunday. Worship was so good. I walked away just like feeling super full of the Spirit. It was a good morning. So I want to just follow up with your sermon on locking arms. I loved what you said, and I'd love for you to just expand on it a little bit here. When the mission is clear, preference gets smaller and purpose gets bigger. Oh man, I just thought that there was a lot of wisdom in that, and I found that to be true as well. When we're all walking in lockstep, there's a lot less, preference that we care about. So how have you seen that in your experience manifest itself?
Well, I think it goes back to, if you don't have a clear mission or vision, people create their own. And, it's kind of like the old saying, if you don't fill in the blanks for people, they fill it in themselves. And I think that's what happens in churches sometimes, where you don't have a clear, hey, this is who we are, this is what we're about, this is what we're called to do. Then people just kind of do what they want to do. They don't really have a clear direction. And so then it goes down to, people always will default to what they feel most comfortable doing or what they know. And so that's why it was very important for us to have a very clear mission, because, the mission trumps everything. This is what we're called to do. It doesn't mean we don't, it doesn't mean that we don't, do different things, or we don't like certain things. I mean, we have those things, but I think the mission is this is what we're called to do. And when it comes to our church, the mission is clear. We are a transformed people sharing the truth of Jesus where we live, work, and play. And then we talk about the discipleship process. And so that should be our rallying cry. This is what we do. Mm-hmm. And now how we do that, we're not to that point yet as a church. We will be laying that out. But I think, again, the mission becomes bigger and preferences get smaller. It basically boils down to, not everything is going to match the mission. The mission basically is the filter which you run everything through. Will this help us achieve our mission? Will this help us do what we wanted to do? Yeah. If not, then it just becomes something that that is outside of what we're trying to do. If that makes sense. I feel like I'm not really explaining it well, but
That makes a lot of sense to me, because it's having a good foundation, right? I mean, it's what you're getting at is like, if we'll understand why we're here, it'll be a lot easier to do what we're called to do. You go on so Acts chapter 2 and chapter 4 both kind of have this line about chapter 4 verse 34, where it says this, that there were no needy people among them, because those who own land or houses would sell them and bring the money to the apostles to give to those who are in need. Right. I remember reading that, and I'm sure other people have felt this, but when I first read that, I remember being like, oh, am I not supposed to own anything? Like, that's intimidating. Like, what does that practically look like in my life? And chapter 2 also talks about them meeting in one another's houses, right? So it's obvious that, like, not everybody's selling everything.
Right.
It was, do you feel called to, and if you feel called to, like, people were doing it so that they could provide for the ministry that was happening. And if you do that every day to sell so that people can have food, eventually, what resources do you have? So I think there's obviously some discernment in that. But what would your encouragement be, I guess? What could that practically look like for us as a church? And, maybe they were selling extra land they had, or extra houses, and they had theirs. And I think there's definitely an example for lying about it with, is it Ananias and Sapphira, who they say they bring everything and then they keep a little, and then they lie to Peter and God strikes them dead, What's the practical application for us for that idea of, man, there's no one in need. People are selling stuff and they're giving to those who have need. What could that look like for us?
I think, again, it goes to what if you see a need and you can meet a need, like if you have the means to meet it, then why wouldn't you meet it? And I think it's not so much that you own something. Of course, this sounds, you've heard this before. It's not what you own, it's what owns you. And so if you're, if I'm always worried about money, if that's what consumes me, then that's what owns me, And so then I'm the thing about Ananias and Sapphira. Think of it this way: if they had not given anything, okay,
Yeah.
their name wouldn't even be in there, right? It's the fact that they lied about it and that they made themselves look like that they were doing this great service, and then here comes the wife and she does the same thing. And I think, no one said they had to do it, and it was voluntary. Barnabas did it voluntarily. Hey, you know what? Fine. This is what I want to do, and that's great. I think some people have means to do that. Not everybody does.
Yeah.
They have means to do that, and I think it's also, this is a total rabbit trail we don't want to go down. But I've often heard that's a great example of communism and socialism. They're just no. That mindset is everything belongs to the government,
Yeah.
and it's not voluntary. This was voluntary, and they did it voluntarily, and they did it from the abundance of their heart. And yeah, they still had houses, they still had a livelihood because somebody had to support the mission. Somebody still has to financially support it. So I think they just did it to support those in need. And then we see Barnabas. We don't know a lot about Barnabas. What all he owned and what he didn't own, but man, he had this feel. Hey, I'll sell it to help meet the needs, and so I think that's what it boils down to. I don't think God is telling us, and the Bible's not saying to us, sell everything you have. That's not the call. I mean, I think God gives resources; He does that, but I think we need to be good stewards of them, and that's what that call is. So it goes back to, remember what I shared about being fearful. They weren't stingy.
Yeah.
Most people aren't generous, not because they're stingy. I think it's because they're afraid. They're afraid that because the numbers don't match each month. How am I going to do this? I got a kid. I got 2 kids in college. I get it. Yeah. It doesn't make sense to do that. But it's not about making sense. It's about being faithful and being a good steward. So anyway,
using your time, your talent, and your treasure willingly.
Right.
And specifically, the treasures here. So kind of the last thing I wanted to just ask you about is what do you see like practical application, or are we still praying through that? Because I think there's a little bit of that as well. What do you see like practically we're going to do as a church to lock arms and reach this community? What are the things, some things that you're dreaming about, you hope we'll get to this, things that you think we're going to do, and what are those things, man, you can even touch on some of the things we're already doing. But man, get us excited about what's on the horizon for our church, like what locking arms is going to look like and how we're going to lead our people to do that in the future. Yeah,
locking arms and unity and generosity. I want you to think of it this way. So like our calling is to make disciples, right? And so at some point, let's fast forward, and when we start thinking about people who are in a D group, at the end of that D group, someone's going to come out of there and they're going to be ready to make disciples. They're going to know how to do that.
Yeah.
So when we start locking arms in unity, that means that as a church, we move back out of the staff produces everything, but we start locking arms with people who want to go out, and we start helping support them to do the work of ministry. And it's interesting that we just had this conversation today in my cohort, and I love how they've spelled it out, and I'm hoping that he's going to send me their information. But they look at what this looks like whenever the church comes along and locks arms with its believers. They look at it in things of like 50-50 versus 25 versus 75, by like how much the church puts into somebody's, what they're trying to accomplish. So if somebody's like, man, they come out of a D group and they're ready to make disciples at work and they want to start something at work and they want to do that, great. How can we support you in that? And it may be we're doing a big portion of that work initially, providing Bibles for you, providing, or it's you're doing all the work. We're just here to help encourage you and coach you and help you get. So I think that's what it looks like moving forward as a church. We've got to move our people to start embracing their mission field, and we will lock arms with them in unity to help them accomplish that, and also lock arms in generosity to where we want to be a generous church to continue to expand the mission that God's called us to. And I think we're seeing that with our mission efforts. We have a giving church. We support, a mission trip effort, 50% of your cost. because we want you on the field. We're going to make that commitment. That's how we're locking arms with you. But we're only able to do those things because of the generosity of our people, right?
Yeah.
They have to give. They have to. And so if we want to continue to reach the community, that means, we want to continue to be generous and meet needs. Now, what does that look like moving forward? We have a very strategic thought process that we'll be laying out in the future. But right now, we just want our people to engage with the mission and also to understand what it means to be a disciple, because I think there's still this maybe this misunderstanding necessarily of what it means to live on mission, and what that looks like, because we want our people to own that, and we want to lock arms with them to help them. We're going to do that by training them, by coaching them, by supporting them and cheering them on in their efforts to reach the places where they live, work, and play. Does that help?
Yeah, no, I love that. And I was thinking about, as you were saying that maybe Miss Jana wouldn't want me to share this, but she talked about kind of her resolution for the year was not to do more, but to be more. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I hear when you're saying, when you're talking about like us as a church and getting to that next step, man, we need to be better disciples before we start do all the time. And some of it is we got to hone in on God's word. I mean, this reading plan, if you're not engaged in the reading plan, jump in right where we're at. We're in Acts, which is nice because I kind of was kind of prepped for this conversation because you were out of Acts and we've been reading it. So yeah, I love where we're headed as a church. And, as someone who grew up in this community, and never really having direction on how to reach it or engage it. And, I was a kid at the same time, when you're 16, 17, 18, you're still trying to figure out life, right, much less like how to share with your friends. And man, I've been so proud of our students getting to see Jake read his friend's testimony as he got baptized this week. Like, God's doing something super cool, and people are coming to know the Lord, and we're moving in what I would say is in the right direction. So
I think so. And just also as a church, just think of it this way too. If we move the needle in people's lives where we can, in 2 years, if we've had, 20 people who have truly understood what it means to be a disciple and to make disciples, man, that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Because that's 20 new disciple makers, man, who will go out and own the mission where they live, work, and play, and they're going to know how to make a disciple, how to lead someone to faith in Christ and to walk with them. Yeah. And then that process replicates. And so I think it's a slow, organic type of process to where it's going to be, I think it's going to be measured differently than we measure other things. It's going to be measured, the impact's going to be measured in,
decades, less than
months. I think so, yeah. And that's going to be hard for me, a guy who likes immediate results. But I think it's a process that we have to embrace. And so hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah. Well, man, Jeff, we appreciate it as always. This week we got a big week coming up. You got a missions meeting directly after church this Sunday. Right. We have a guest speaker this Sunday. Adrian's got a VBS meeting too. I mean, we are moving forward. We got so much going on, all good things.
That's right. I mean, we have so much going on right now. Your phone is literally blowing up as we speak.
Yeah, it is.
yeah. There's. I mean, it never stops here. It's always going. That's right.
And that's good. That when the work of the ministry is happening, and I think that, man, I'm excited about this Sunday. We're talking about who's your one.
Right.
Man, tee that up just a little bit for us. I mean, I know you're going to on this Sunday, but you're not speaking, so maybe this little opportunity for you to just give us like a taste of that.
Yeah, everybody has at least one person in their life they know needs to hear the message of the gospel. So what we're going to do this Sunday is we're going to challenge you to identify that one person, and then we're going to ask you to commit this year to pray for them and to look for opportunities to have gospel conversations with them in an effort to see God work in their life and let the gospel transform their life. And so that's what we're hoping for with the Who's Your One campaign. We're going to do a way to visibly, show you how to do that. We're going to give you an opportunity to name that person, not out loud. We're not going to ask you to stand up and say their name, but we're going to give a very practical way for you to step out and say, hey, this is the one person that I'm going to be praying for this year.
Yeah, I love that. And it can be really personal too. someone you work with, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a friend. I've been in churches that have done the Hoosier one, and it's really cool to see the impact that it's had.
Yeah.
And know that, hey, like, that's someone we prayed for, and then the Lord came through.
Right.
And look at that right there. There's someone who's accepted Christ and become a part of our church. And man, I think that's what encourages me so much since I've been here is like, man, I got here in October, and we have almost, not every Sunday, but we've almost had a baptism every Sunday.
That's right.
Like, it's been, and it's people of all ages. It's not just littles, and it's not just, kids and teenagers. Man, we're having adults as well.
That's right.
And, man, it's been cool to see this move of God, and I'm excited about what he's doing. And man, we could pray for him to continue to move and work in power. So, well, thank you, Brother Jeff. We appreciate you coming on for a little bit. Y'all have a great week. We'll see you this Sunday.